Welcome to the motor racing capital of the world. We're at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where we're getting ready for pole day, if we can get Mother Nature to cooperate. As we get ready for race day just a few weeks away, the weather has been frightful for the last couple of days. In fact, the only people that have been out on the racetrack are those lucky enough to ride in the tour bus. And we're not sure, but we think we can guarantee they're not doing 226 miles an hour around the 2.5 miles of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Welcome to pole day here at Indianapolis as we get ready for the 90th running of this great spectacle of racing. Let's take you back to around the track before the day began today. We went all the way back to opening day when a special moment for the Andretti family. All three generations on the track at the same time. And there is Mario, the 1969 winner. Michael Andretti, that's the car. He'll be trying to win his first as a driver. Remember, he won last year as an owner. And there is 19-year-old son Marco, who's been the fastest this month so far. The number 6 of Sam Hornish. There you see the speed, 226.789 miles an hour. And it's deja vu all over again for Buddy Rice. Not that he won, but that he crashed in the exact same corner where a year ago that crash put him out of the race. This one just gave him a bump and a bruise on his knees, but he will be ready to go when we're ready to go. And let's take a look at the month of speed here at Sam Hornish. Dan Weldon, notice the trend here as I bring in Scott Goodyear and Rusty Wallace. Scott, it seems like it's Target Ganassi and Team Penske.
Well, Marty, what a difference a year makes now that everybody has a Honda engine. Look at the teams that are up top, Penske and Target Chip Ganassi, teams that struggled last year, but they have been setting the pace here for this whole week so far, Rusty.
They sure have. Team Penske and Ganassi Racing, those two guys have been dominating throughout the week, and they've been real strong, and my money's on these guys right now.
And I want to point out, guys, we show page 2. You see Danica Patrick. In fact, the entire Ray Hall Letterman team, Rusty, they're struggling for speed.
They really are right now. Danica has just not put the numbers on the board quite yet, Marty. She just hasn't been up to speed, but I'll tell you, there's not been much practice whatsoever. So all these teams are looking for practice right now to get these old hot rods running.
Well, don't tune out on us as you get to see our window on the world. It's a little damp outside, but we are told that the weather is trying to clear out, but it will bring us another element because we've also got the 50-50 rule, Scott.
Well, you have to have 50 ambient temperature and 50 track temperature, and actually that doesn't look like that's going to happen today. And I think the most important thing for everybody in the garage area now is to sort of look back on their engineering notes to sort of see what the temperature was on particular days this week and sort of match it up to today if they can particularly do that. It's going to be tough. I'm not even sure if they'll actually get everything in today. You know, we can qualify 11 cars today, Marty. It might be tough to do that.
Well, everybody gets one guaranteed shot through the line, and if that means we carry over into tomorrow, so be it. So that as we look towards hopefully getting that qualifying in, let's also look back as to what we've seen in the past. We mentioned Buddy Rice just a little bit earlier in the broadcast. Let's take you back a couple of years ago to his high point here at the Speedway in 2004. He won the rain-shortened race, took the checker flag under yellow at lap 180. But then, 1 year later, turn 2, this crash put him out of the race.
Unfortunate because they've been struggling for a little bit of speed right now, and they need Buddy to have an opportunity to be on the track so he can go out there and start to work on the setup on this car. So with him out of the seat, missing a day has been very difficult for him.
And let's bring in Jack Arute. He's with Buddy Rice.
Well, let's take you back earlier this week, as we were alluding to. May 11th is not a red-letter day for Buddy Rice or Ray Hall Letterman Racing. In May 11th in 2005, of course, we know what knocked Buddy Rice out of the Indy Car, Indy 500 that year. May 11th this year, a terrible crash with not the same consequences. In the exact same spot, Buddy Rice had this piece break. What we call that is a toe link. So it wasn't any cockpit error. It was an equipment failure, buddy, that put you out of your primary car and now finds you with this Panos T car. When did you know during the course of the crash that this thing, was it just a snap or was there any indication of the failure?
No, I mean, when it happened, it just took off, and there's nothing you can do on those things. So, obviously, it's not good. But obviously, next year, May 11th, we're going to have to sit out and just let that day just slide right on by at this rate. We don't want to keep this going. But I think, you know, with Argent, Honda, and the Panos, we got really good cars here. I got good teammates and an awesome team. And, you know, this weather's not very good for us out here at Indy. But, you know, it's still the Indy 500, and we're excited.
Let's talk for a moment about the Panos and the combination for Ray Hall Letterman and the Argent Mortgage team. It was so good for the last couple of years, and then all of a sudden you guys get here, and I wouldn't say you're behind the curve, but you're not as dominant as you once were. Have you and your crew been able to isolate what some of the issues are?
You know, I think we're working on it. We've been working on a lot of different things and making sure we got a good handle on our car. And I think our approach from what we did last year to this year has changed a little bit. We know the chassis is good, we know the combination's good, but what myself and my engineer and obviously the other engineers, but definitely on the 15 car, we've been working a lot on race stuff and just trying to make sure you always have a good balance in the car. It's something that we probably didn't focus enough on last year, and that hurt us as a group. So all the races that we've been doing this year, we've been really just working on race stuff and making sure we have a good balance. And I think you know, we're definitely going to need to work on getting a little more speed out of our car for qualifying, but I think when it comes to race time, I think this Panos Honda is the combination, and hopefully we can get Argent back into the winner's circle.
Jerry Punch, one thing about this Ray Hall Letterman team, they've had great success here at Indianapolis, and they'd like to get back on the successful side of things in 2006.
And Jack's success came to him last year. In fact, last year, pole day was the beginning of a sensational month of May for rookie Danica Patrick, except for turn 1 on lap 1 of qualifying, when this little baba, this tiny bobble, this little twitch was the only hiccup that kept Danica Patrick from claiming the pole and the history books for being the first woman ever to sit on the pole at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now, that was last year. This is this year. Let's go over here and talk to Danica Patrick. You know what happened last year? She ended up qualifying 4th, finished 4th in the race, and made history by leading 19 laps in the Indy 500. And Danica, thanks for taking a few moments to come over and join us. I've got to ask you, we never talked last year. What was going through your mind when that car bobbled in turn 1 at about 220 miles an hour?
Well, I would imagine there wasn't much thought at first, and I've always believed that as a driver, it's so much instinct, reflex, and just being that driver. And so I just reacted. But after that, I was mad. I was mad the last 3 laps. I figured I threw away qualifying completely. So I guess in the end, I was actually a little bit surprised, I suppose, that I ended up starting 4th. But I still thought we had the chance to qualify again, but it wasn't quite right when we tested the car right after when they went for open practice. And so we stood where we were.
Of all you accomplished here a year ago, what do you cherish the most?
Well, you know, probably the response and the emotion that I got out of everybody when I came into the pits. It was, I suppose, a bit bigger than what I thought, and just how happy my family was priceless.
Well, Danica, thanks for joining us. Now, we're going to have a lot more with Danica Patrick later on in the day. We're going to talk about what's going on this year, The Hunt for Speed, the new book that's out, a little bit about what's going on with the family on Mother's Day. All that coming up later on with Danica Patrick. Meanwhile, let's check in over at Team Penske and Jamie Little.
Well, we're staying very dry inside here at Penske, the team that has a target on their back. We've already heard a lot of talk about this team. They're back. They have Honda power this year, and so far, Sam Hornish Jr. has been the man. 3 days this week. You were the fastest in practice, first man to turn over 226. Sam, how are you so fast out of the box this week?
We've just really been excited about coming back here with the Honda horsepower. We knew that you know, being on an equal playing field, that we'd be right where we needed to be, and we're just super excited about our chances for the pole and also for the race win. And you know, we know that it's a long way yet, so we're not going to get overly anxious. And days like this, we just had to sit around and wait.
Sam, you've accomplished many things in your career, including 2 Indy Car Series championships. How bad do you want to get a win finally here at Indianapolis?
Well, I want to win real bad, but you know, my goal for this race is to finish all 200 laps. I haven't done that yet, and in 6 years of trying. So I figure if I can do that, I'll probably be in the top 5. And you know, if it looks like we've got an opportunity to win, you know, we'll push it there towards the end. But if not, I know that we need a lot of points for the championship, and I know Elio's getting away from me a little bit in those points, so I got to try to catch up to him a little bit.
Real quick, let's go back to last year. You started second, you led 77 laps. Things were looking great, and then bam, your day was over again. What happened?
You know, it was a mistake in judgment. We were just trying to make it through that run on the tires, come in, make an adjustment to the car, to go back out, and hopefully be able to regain some positions. And it was you know, a guy that you don't race with every day. You know, got to the inside of me, and I gave him plenty of room. And you know, he touched the apron a little bit. The car wiggled, and he moved up, and I moved up to try to keep from hitting with him, and you know, just enough to get into the marbles, and you know, took me out of the race. But one of those unfortunate incidences, and those things that you know always seem that you can get away with at other places, but not at Indy.
Well, another guy is his teammate that is one of the favorites to take the pole, Elio Castroneves. Haven't done it yet here, but you've won twice here at Indianapolis. And this year, Elio, if you win, you'd become the youngest three-time winner here. What would that mean to you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously, we have to start step by step. You know, we're very close. We were very close in 2003, and again, unfortunately, in 04, 05, we're kind of a little off. But look like this year we have a very good momentum, which is very important for the entire Team Penske, you know, and so have to keep working. Hopefully the Mother Nature give us a break and we go for it.
All right, Elio does have one pole here. He's going to go for a second pole, but we're going to have a lot more coming up on Elio later on in the show, so stay tuned. Now we're going to go over to Vince Welch.
Well, Jamie, one of the great stories here at Indianapolis during this month of May has been the return of Michael Andretti. Michael has turned a top lap in practice at 2:23.1, and well, it's another family story here at Indianapolis this month. In the past, we've talked about his father, Mario Andretti, and Michael when he was racing with his dad, and now it's you and Marco, your 19-year-old son. Which was more of a lure for you to come back to Indianapolis, the chance to race with your son or the chance to win here at Indianapolis?
Well, initially it was Marco for sure. I think that's what prompted it all, but once I decided to do it, then that sort of went to the side, and then it was all about taking this chance to try to win the race, and I'm very excited about our chances. You know, the Jim Beam Vonage car has been running really well all month, and you know, we just want to get in the field hopefully today and you know, start working on a race.
Now, was there ever a conversation with your dad to come back and make it 3 generations of Andretti's here this month?
Well, we tried it a couple years ago, and he broke my car, so ever since he did that, he's not allowed to do it now.
Give us a grade on Marco and how he's done here so far this month.
He's done very well. He's been really quick, and he's just soaking it all in, you know, trying to get as much experience as he can, and I think everybody on the team's been very impressed.
How about you and your return? Are you comfortable with the amount of laps that you've run? What do you need between now and race day to get ready, or are you there already?
Well, I'm happy with my car for qualifying. You know, we just want to do a couple more runs, get it a little bit better, but then we got to start working on a race, and I'd like to have at least 2 days of running for that, and then I think we'll be all right. I'm real happy with the car. The car has been really consistent all month, and maybe not the fastest car, but I think one of the more consistent cars.
Yeah, and as you can tell by all the fans that are gathered around us here today with Michael Andretti, fans always enjoy an Andretti at the Speedway. We'll have more on the Andretti family as they return to Indianapolis later in the program. Let's go upstairs now to Marty.
All right, thanks, Vince. We have a lot coming your way. Don't go anywhere. Even if we aren't optimistic enough, we think we're going to get some qualifying today, but our crews have been working since January on a lot of features. One of them being the return of Michael Andretti. He's won it as a car owner. Can he finally win it as a driver? And how about Danica Patrick? Her life has been a whirlwind, except on the racetrack this week. And Elio Castroneves just celebrated a birthday a few days ago. We'll celebrate with him. And it's the return of a 2-time champion, Al Unser Jr. ESPN's presentation of the Indianapolis 500 qualifying brought to you by Scott's Turf Builder Plus 2. Kills dandelions and gives you a thick green lawn, especially when you've got rain like we do here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But we are anticipating and hoping that we will see pole day qualifying here as we get ready for the 90th running of the Indianapolis 500. Now, don't forget that later today, coverage continues with Indianapolis 500 Pole Day telecast presented by Capital One. You'll see it on ABC from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and you won't miss a thing that moves out on the racetrack, including the tour bus right now. Less than 10 years ago, Danica Patrick came to this speedway for the first time as a kid dreaming of crossing the yard of bricks herself. When she finally realized that pursuit last year, the media attention that followed and remains put the dreams of a little girl in the spotlight. As she still chases her first win, we look back on Danica Mania that surrounded her during her rookie year.
I still have the same dreams and aspirations as I did when I came to Indianapolis Motor Speedway in '97. And I think that's important. I think it's important to hold on to those dreams because it's all about who doesn't give up. I always thought that most importantly, if I was given the opportunity to be fast, the response would be there. All I needed in Indy Car, the top level of racing, was a good race car.
Speed Queen Danica Patrick.
Why Danica, she's the first woman in racing that has the total package.
We're in Japan, and it's Danica Patrick.
She has the tenacity.
A week ago, she sat on the front row and turned heads around the world.
The fastest rookie on the racetrack.
Trained her whole life with it.
Hell of a job.
She's the real deal, and she does have a shot for
Will she be the first woman to win the Indy 500?
Danica Patrick may have changed this entire sport.
Coming off the track from the Indy 500 and seeing the excitement on everybody's faces and hugging everybody, that is 14 years of blood, sweat, and tears all in one day coming together. And while you can be very confident that that day will come and that you're going to make it happen, you can never be quite so sure.
A woman driver making racing history.
Danica Patrick finishes another race.
Win a pole, famous for a day. Win a race, famous for life. Danica Patrick has shuttled back to 9th place.
Just did not work out for her.
She did not qualify well.
You're going to tell me, you didn't try hard enough? That's not true.
When are you going to close the deal?
She seems to be drifting back.
She did not race well.
The question I think everyone wants to know across America, can Danica win?
I want to win more than anything. And so everything that everyone could say won't make me try harder.
And of course, there is Danica back in the garage area, hoping to get her attempt to qualify a little bit later today. And everybody does talk about Danica. When will she win her first race? Let's put it in perspective for you. She's only in her second year. Look at Unser Sr., guys. Now, he's only won this thing here in Indy 4 times. Elio's a 2-time winner. H.A. Foyt, a 4-time winner. Does it put a little more perspective on this, that maybe we're putting too much pressure on her?
Well, I think obviously she has the attention to her because she is a female, but, you know, let's think about this. She was a rookie last year, and she came here and qualified on the second row, which is very, very impressive because it's a tough job to do. 4 laps of qualifying here to get that right. Even Rick Mayer says very, very tough. I think she has an opportunity to win this year. Whether she'll win Indy, it's going to be tough because everybody has that Honda engine.
Okay, let me ask you, Rusty Wallace, will she win this year?
I think she definitely has the opportunity to win this year. She is really good. I've raced with her in Daytona. She's a very focused driver. She's got the equipment. She knows what she did wrong last year and all the things she did right last year. So, hey, she could definitely win, Marty. I feel very, very strongly that she's got the experience to get the job done this year.
Scott, what makes her a good driver? In fact, I'll ask both of you for your opinions on this.
Well, you have to be fast, you have to be fit, and you have to be able to focus on the job at hand. And, you know, I think that she's been able to do that. Whether it's tougher this year because of all the media attention that she's had, I mean, only she knows that for sure. But I can tell you from being here for 11 years that there's no place like the Indianapolis 500. When you arrive here and there's 400,000 people in this stadium in the morning, it's a different racetrack field than any other place that you've ever been.
Rusty, we've already told the folks if they've been with us for the first 3 races, you drove with her back at the Rolex 24. What, in your opinion, makes her so good?
Marty, I think what makes her so good is definitely she understands the car. She's very, very involved in the car. All her debriefs we had in practice, she talked about the handling, she talked about gear ratios, air pressure settings, wing angles in the front of that car, wicker bills in the back. She's all well-rounded on the technical side of it. I tell people all the time, if you don't understand your car, you're not going to be successful all the time. And Danica does. I've seen a lot of great women out there run cars, but she's the real deal, and that's the reason I've got a lot of confidence in her.
Well, let's talk to the guy who helps call all the shots on her car, Ray Leto. He is back in the garage area with our Dr. Jerry Punch.
Exactly, Marty. And Ray Leto knows Danica better than anyone else in terms of her ability as a driver. She's grown up in front of your eyes, and you called the race last year when you almost had the pole and almost had the win. What is the difference between Danica Patrick that comes here this year getting ready to run for the pole today and the one that was here a year ago as a rookie?
Well, I think you know, the last 12 months have been a maturing process for Danica and for us as a team. You know, just coming into these big cars for the first time last year, obviously the first time here at this track. I know the guys have probably explained how difficult this place is and how much it changes. I think only experience can teach you what happens and how it changes. Now we've got 12 months of working on this car, and she understands what affects the car, how the changes we make will help her solve the problems that we're having. So that really helps me because I get the feedback on, you know, remember when we did this change at Texas or at Homestead when, you know, it affected the car. You know, we're working more together because she's contributing to that setup a lot more. So now we come back second year here. It's certainly not, you know, the rookie experience where everything's new every day. We know what to expect. So, you know, we're ahead of the game that way. So I think, to me, I've seen that maturity and understanding the subtleties of the car, what to expect from the racetrack, not to get too upset if we're off a little bit one day or the weather, we're chasing that for how our setup is. And you know, really for me, the best thing is her coming back and saying, you know, I know the car's right or I know it's not, because she knows what it feels like now.
What kind of pressure is on you and this Ray Hall Letterman team to put her in victory lane soon? I mean, it's only her 20th start.
Yeah, that's true. We, you know, we feel the pressure because I think, like anybody, we want to go out and win every week. So that pressure's there every week, whether you know, it's the 20th or 30th or 10th race with her. I don't think it matters. We've had that pressure from the beginning. But yeah, you know, I think it takes time. I think the level of the competition just keeps getting tighter every week. Now that everybody's got the same engine, you know, we've lost that advantage we had over the last couple of years. So it just makes it more difficult. So I think we just look to be as fast as we can every week and run up front and put her in a situation where she can be racing for the lead like we did last year.
Hey, good luck today on pole day.
Thanks a lot.
Ray Leto, Chief Engineer for Danica Patrick and Interim Chief Operating Officer for Ray Hall Letterman Racing here, hoping to get Danica toward the front this year as we check in with Jack Arute.
Well, Jerry, what do race fans do when they're in the rain? Well, they line up. They queue up for a souvenir DVD. And basically what each of these fans is getting is this that recounts all of the great moments over the first 89 runnings of the Indianapolis 500. Throughout the course of today's telecast, we're going to take a look at a lot of those fantastic decades. But coming up next, we're going to look at a family that has absolutely dominated some of the great historic moments here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Welcome back to Indianapolis. It is still kind of dreary outside, but we are hoping to get pole day qualifying. And don't tune out on us because, like we said, our crews have been working since January on some fantastic historical perspectives. In fact, we're going to show you one of those pretty soon. But right now, we want to take you back to this earlier in the week, May 7th, when the Andretti family was able to go out on the track. Probably the only time they'll get to do this in race car trim. There was Grandpa, and there's Dad, and here is grandson, Marco, at age 19. What about what Michael Andretti has done at the Speedway during his 14 prior attempts? Well, it's been very frustrating because, as you may know, he's led the most laps of any driver without a victory. It sort of sounds like Phil Mickelson before he won his first Masters. His best finish, that great battle in 1991. He retired in 2003, won as an owner. Now he's back chasing the elusive dream.
But I know that I want Indianapolis.
And Andretti takes it. He's won the Indianapolis 500.
And it's almost unfair to some degree because you need so much going for you, so much luck in many ways to be able to do it. And there's so many great champions that never won. They're viewed differently somewhat. You know, that's the unfair part about it.
To me, Indianapolis as a racetrack is probably one of my best tracks. I mean, I've had some of my best races, my best race cars at Indy, but I've had my worst luck at Indy.
Michael Andretti is slowing down. An unbelievable turn of events. The man who has dominated this race. 11 laps to go. Suddenly the car slows and Michael appears to be done.
I have never seen a race driver in my life that deserves this race more than Michael Andretti.
There's been a lot of plane flights home. That's why I remember just talking about how we could have won it and how we were so close to winning the race.
Unfortunately, right now, most laps led for a non-winner.
That's why I feel for Michael so much because was he capable of winning it? You're darn right. He dominated that race more than even four-time winners.
It was just an unspoken thing. You know, I don't think he needed to talk about how important it was.
We almost didn't talk about this place just because of how, like, we don't have many good memories here, to be honest.
After 14 Indy 500 starts, Michael Andretti retired as a driver in 2003 to pursue a career as an owner. Last year, Michael watched his car win the pole, then win the race. 2 feats he was never able to accomplish. Last December, Michael announced he would return to Indy.
And I guarantee you the motivating factor is to experience being on the racetrack with his own son, just like he and I did. Believe me, in a lifetime, that's something that's so precious.
I experienced it as a driver and a team owner. Now I'm going to have to experience it as a father. I never thought that I'd have an opportunity to drive against Marco and still be competitive and still be young enough.
The thing is with us, we sort of just know it. We don't really talk about, oh, how cool it's going to be. You know, we're both going to be driving there. We sort of know that it's going to be awesome.
That's why I'm doing it. But once, you know, made that decision to do it, then it's like, all right, my goal's to win the race.
He wants to win this race, no question. He bounced right back into how he used to be, which is the most focused man I've ever seen in my life.
I never thought I'd have another opportunity to win this race, and I think I can win the race. I don't think I've lost anything. That's why I'm coming back.
At Indy this year, I like to see Michael win it. I'll be cheering him on to win. I'll be cheering Marco to be right behind him.
A legendary name at a legendary place. I want to get thoughts from both you, Scott Goodyear, Rusty Wallace, and I have a feeling it might be a little bit of a different perspective here. You raced against Mario. What do you think about the Andretti legend here?
You know, for so many decades, the Andrettis have been so competitive at all types of tracks that they've driven throughout the country. And, you know, I've had the opportunity to drive against Mario and Michael and Jeff. I mean, a very tough family because they want to win every race they're in. But, you know, you look at the situation right now, and I question whether or not Michael can be fast enough to win this race if it comes down to a shootout at the end. You drive differently when you're in your 20s. You drive differently when you're in your 30s. And when you're in your 40s, I mean, do you start to think about it a little bit? A lot of people I talk to that have retired say maybe that's the situation. Only Michael knows for sure, and we're going to have to wait for race day to sort of find out because you have to drive the car on the edge.
What about your opinion of the Andrettis? You've raced against John. I think that's the only one you've actually driven against. And would you ever think about coming out of retirement?
Well, Scott, I respectfully disagree with you.
That's okay.
I think that Michael can do it. I really do. I know that when I retired full-time from driving NASCAR, I know I still got it. I know I can go out there and win, I think. It was an emotional piece for me to watch because it reminded me of my own son. I'd like to race with Steven one of these days, but I had breakfast this morning with Mario. It was a lot of fun. Him and Parnelli Jones and the guys over there at the Speedway Hotel having breakfast and talking about the old days. And I can tell you right now, Michael is a champion as a car owner. He's a champion as a race car driver. He can definitely win this race. He's a young guy. Scott, how old is he? He's
43 years old.
43? Man, look. Hey, I'm 49. I think I can do it. You know, I think he can do it also. I really think that Unser Jr. can do it. I think these guys have got it. I'm pulling for them. They're definitely the sentimental favorites.
I can see it now. The phone calls are going to start coming in. Hey, Rusty says he can still do it. Your phone's going to start ringing. It's over. Let's talk a little bit about Marco, age 19. 19. I mean, he doesn't even look old enough to shave.
You know, there was a story going around that he actually had some guests in his a condo here that he has in Indianapolis, and Tony Kanaan said, hey, I need to borrow a razor, and he said, you know, I don't use one quite yet. So when you think about that, I mean, young, 19 years old, amazing how quick he's going. He's come up through the ranks of go-karts, the Skip Barber series, and he's done very, very well. He won some Indy Pro races last year, but, you know, experience plays a big part here. We'll have to see how things work out.
All right, well, let's hear from Marco Andretti. He's with Jack Arute.
Well, guys, you don't need a razor when you got, you know, good looks like this. Marco Andretti getting the first opportunity to go out to the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway, having been a track brat and grown up around here. Can you describe the feelings when you were wheeling that New York Stock Exchange car around?
Yeah, it was definitely very special. But, you know, when you're out there at speed, it's just, it's another racetrack, and it's a very tough racetrack to sort of, you know, do laps around, but, you know, you definitely need your focus so you're not really thinking about other things. But definitely, you know, when we sort of set things off, you know, at the beginning of the month with the, yeah, I guess, you know, my father and grandfather right outside of me, you know, your second gear just cruising, then you sort of sit back and say, you know, I finally made it, you know. But again, I say finally, but I'm 19 years old, you know, you know, I'm here pretty good age.
When you look to someone to try and mentor you through this month of May, do you go first to Granddad or to Pops?
No, I mean, no. I mean, they're both there, and that's what I need to do is take advantage of them. You know, they're both there when I need them, and I guess, you know, I don't go to one over the other. They're both, you know, they're both the best in the business, and I also have 3 other great teammates as well.
Yeah, we have to get Vince. We have to get him out of here in the press room because the other 3 teammates are on their way. He's the young driver, and he's very, very fearful that they might put him through some rookie razzing if he's on the air live. Vince?
Well, you can be sure Marco's going to get some rookie razzing with teammates like Tony Kanaan. And, I mean, it's legendary, the practical jokes that go on in that team. Have you gotten Marco with anything good yet?
Yeah, we did. We have the same size of shoes, so I guess the other day I liked one of his shoes that he was wearing. I took it, and he had an appearance to go. And obviously he had to wear his racing boots to the appearance, which became normal with those racing shoes. A lot of people are wearing them on the street, so it didn't look that bad, apart that it was a leather shoe, so it was funny.
Now, I know when you came in recently into town, he was your host. You stayed at his place. What kind of host is Marco? Just 19 years old. I mean, what kind of host can he be?
I wasn't very impressed when I got there and I opened the refrigerator. It was just water, and just that I had no food. So the bed wasn't made, so I had to do that too. But he was okay host. Apart from, I have a big problem of shaving. I shave in the morning. I look the way I look right now. So I went to his bathroom because I forgot my razor and it had none. And obviously, if you look at the guy's face, he doesn't have to have a razor. So I bought a couple and then I left there just in case I come back.
You've taken a lot of photos with a lot of the fans that are out signing a lot of autographs. Any unusual requests from the fans today?
Well, today some of them are just trying to ask you to sign a picture or their backs, or this guy approached me and says, "Hey, can we take a picture?" I said, "Oh, of course." So I was getting myself besides the guy to take this picture, and the guy go, no. He handed me the camera and asked me to take his picture so he could tell everybody that Tony Kanaan had took his own picture. So it was pretty neat. That was a very strange request. I never had that one.
A unique request and a unique driver, that's for sure. Last year's pole winner, Tony Kanaan, guys.
All right, Vince, well, tell Tony if he doesn't have anything to do, he can come up here and shoot camera for us. I mean, if he's going to be hiring out, hey, that is the Hall of Fame Museum. And that car you're looking at, that's the first winner of Ray Haroon. We'll look back on Indy memories. More prestigious than winning the greatest spectacle in racing is capturing the pole position. Well, pole day might be moved to tomorrow if we can't get it in today. No matter what, we will be back tomorrow for more time trial. Indianapolis 500 coverage continues at noon Eastern and then again at 6 Eastern. All of it on ESPN tomorrow. And as we continue to wait for the rain to stop and the track to dry, let's flash back to one of the most memorable moments. Remember Jim McKay calling the first lap of the 1973 event?
Ranson takes the base car off the track. He should get the green right now. Doesn't look like a repeat of last year's start. No, it's a good one. And here they come. Bobby Unser going for the lead. Johnny Rutherford right alongside him. Rutherford down low, but Bobby with a terrible crash on the home stretch. There are several cars involved. We can't see the numbers, but it's been a bad crash on the start. It was in the middle of the field somewhere. Terrible thing. Explosion. This is what everyone is feared. This is why there's been such a terrible atmosphere of fear here all weekend long. A shame there's a driver waving. He might be on fire, that man, the way he was waving. You can't see an alcohol fire. Those explosions are not cars. Those are the bombs overhead that are normally set off during the start of the race. There is a report already that there may be spectators hurt, not confirmed. The wire fence right here on the straightaway was ripped apart. It was very fortunate that a car did not come into the crowd, because one of the standards holding up the wire screen has also been broken in half. Right here at the most crowded part of the grandstand, we almost had an automobile go into the crowd. And it appears definitely that there are spectators injured, but here's a replay of what happened here. He was back in the 6th or 7th row, this car. Conjecture that it might have been salt water, but watch. There's a car going, starting to the right. Right there, and look at this. Incredible explosion. Fuel spraying out over the spectators in the first few rows. That could mean real trouble. And an explosion, and like a pinwheel or a garden sprinkler, all the fuel is being sprayed out of the car. That could be a good thing for the driver if he has survived this crash. Car upside down, coming to a rest. Another view of this from a head-on camera. And again, you will see how the cables inside this screen are the only thing to stop this car from flying into the crowd. There, watch now. The screen itself is completely destroyed. The cables flinging him back out on the race course upside down, and again that fuel spraying on the crowd. That's a matter of great concern. And here, that pinwheel effect. The alcohol-based fuel spinning out of the car upside down. Another car, Lee Koonsman, I believe, number 16, barely missing the crash. It's Salt Walther, who is under the car. Terrible, terrible accident on the start at Indianapolis. Only 7 seconds.
And that was one of the frightening moments at 1973. And that is Gordon Johncock's car that you see back in the museum from that very year. And Scott, you have a special memory from that year as well.
You know, Marty, that was my first Indy 500 race, and I was sitting in the grandstands, and when that happened, it went by so quickly, not really sure what was going on, but as a teenager, you know, you're watching this racing going on, you want to come to the Indianapolis 500, currently racing go-karts at the time, and to see something like that, it sticks with you forever because it was so powerful.
Well, this place is special. Everyone has Indy memories. No one ever forgets their first.
This is Sid Collins saying welcome to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
I think it was like 66 or 67. And I was here with my brother and my 2 cousins, and they dressed us up in these Firestone race suits.
My first memory was coming here testing, just doing those first laps, and how narrow the track was.
I remember the first time I ever came here was back in '96, and to sit in turn 4 with the crowd and the noise of not only the cars but the people even. It was just pretty unbelievable.
This was my very first Indy Car race in 1994, driving for A.J. Foyt. That was big for me. I mean, just finally to break into the big time, that was a real high point.
My first memory has to just be hanging out at the Speedway Motel playing with my little race cars, wishing I was out there. I guess my dream's coming true.
It certainly is. And Rusty, I think your first Indy memory might be a little different from everybody else's here.
It was a lot different. I was able to come to Indianapolis for a Goodyear tire test that day, and so excited. Such a history-filled racetrack to run on. And when I remember the stock cars were going to run here at Indy for the first time, I thought, oh my gosh, I wish I could get on the racetrack first. And I remember a NASCAR said, we're going to put the cars on the track by car number. So I'm car number 2. I went on the track first, Marty. Went on the track first, pulled on there. I said, oh my gosh, this feels good. Well, number 3 was right behind me, Dale Earnhardt. I blew down the back straightaway, and Earnhardt stayed on the throttle, went off of turn 4, and beat me to the start-finish line to lead the first lap that a stock cars ever ran here at Indianapolis. So I was the first one on the track. Earnhardt was the first guy to lead it. And then we blasted down on that turn 1. I thought, my gosh, is this track narrow. And in that tire test, we run over 200 miles an hour in the straightaways going at turn 1. And it's such a narrow racetrack. I'm on the brakes, off the gas pedal. And to watch these Indy cars, Scott, run around here wide open, never lifting, just blows me right away.
Well, I know I always wanted to be in broadcasting since the time I was 13, and I remember my first memory was listening to Sid Collins on the radio, and then when you got here to the track, the dulcet tones of Tom Carnegie, and he is celebrating his 61st year. Jamie Little caught up with him.
Well, we're talking about a lot of first memories of Indy here, and my first memory is hearing the famous words from Mr. Tom Carnegie on pole day saying, he's on it, and I'm not even going to try to say it. This is your 61st Indianapolis 500, Tom. It's great to see you back here. Unfortunately, bad weather conditions, but let's talk about pole day and your experience here.
Well, I didn't know what pole day meant when I first started, way back in 1946. Jamie, that's been a long time ago for you. But it was my first experience. I'd never seen a 500-mile race. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing about qualifications, and the war was just over, and a lot of excitement about that. And then everybody pouring out because the track had been closed for 4 years. They got it cleaned up and ready to go, and qualifications I got involved in, and I really didn't know much about what I was doing. and he's on it. Came later on. It just developed. I didn't plan to make it a trademark, but somebody said, hey, we like that expression. And I think the reason is that it says all we need to know in just about 4 words, and that's the start of the run.
Is there one thing in particular that stands out on pole day? Any of the calls that you made that stand out in your mind?
Oh, yes. Tom Sneva, who was the first driver to go over 200 miles an hour. The day before on television, he said that he was going to do it, and he hadn't gone over 195. So we just didn't expect him to really be able to do it. And that day, he set new track records, not once, but 5 times. Each lap was faster than the other one. So I got to say, and it's a new track record. Not once, but 5 times in that run. 4 laps, and then the cumulative speed.
Unbelievable. That's your other phrase we always hear for the fans. And I know it's raining right now. We're not seeing cars on the track. But when we do get to pole qualifying, what is your prediction for this year?
Safety. I think it's been the primary concern of the management of the Speedway and all of us who love racing to make them as safe as possible. And that is where the big effort has been. And it's paying off. And I think you're going to see a good, colorful race, a safe race, and if they set a new track record, I'd love to see it.
All right, Tom Carnegie here for his 61st Indianapolis 500.
Think about this. Those pipes have only missed 29 of the 90 races. What an incredible man. That's a record I guarantee you will never be broken. The rain continues. We're still hoping to get qualifying in. When we come back, we'll compare a Cup car versus an Indy car. And we'll find out which one these guys like better. Back here at Indianapolis, don't forget the coverage continues later today. Indianapolis 500 Pole Day telecast presented by Capital One from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. If we can get this track dried out, we'll see who can sit on the pole here at Indy. We're still hoping for the track to dry. While we have a moment, let's test your Indy IQ. Get your text messages ready, because here's our question. How many active drivers have won from the Indy 500 from the pole? Now, that's active drivers. Is it A1, B2, C3, D4? Text it to 4ESPN. That's 43776 to cast your vote. We'll have the message and results a little bit later. All right, let's talk about what we told you about right before the break as you look at the pagoda. What's the difference between a Cup car and an Indy car as Rusty and Scott take a look at their former rides?
Hey, Rusty, we had you drive one of these cars at Homestead earlier on, but let's talk a little bit of Indy car versus Cup car.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I had a good time, Scott, in Homestead driving that car with Hornish's car. It was awesome, man. It was fast. All right, Scott, I'll go one-on-one with you about a stock car versus an Indy car.
Well, Rusty, I got a sleek and sexy ride over here. I can see my own wheels up front here. The wind comes rushing over the front of the car inside the cockpit, sort of like natural cooling, if you will. My Honda engine produces 650 horsepower. My car only weighs 1,535 pounds. I think I've been on a diet compared to that big thing that you run.
Oh, man, I wish I could see my tires evidently, but I can't. My car's about 3,400 pounds. It makes about 850 horsepower if you're at an unrestricted racetrack. Now, when we go to Talladega and Daytona and places like that where NASCAR's got restrictors on us, we're about 440 horsepower. That's about it.
How fast do you go?
Well, with 440 horsepower, we can get about 192 miles per hour at a place like Daytona or Talladega. A little while ago, you were talking about the weight. Your car weighs about 1,530 pounds. That's it?
That's it. Driver and car are thin and skinny, man.
I'd like to line you up about 3 or 4 wide at Talladega and see if we could have that thing and hold up with a little bump drafting going on.
I'd be out of the park.
I might bump your wing right off the back of that thing, right?
You're a kind driver. Let's go.
As you take a look at the stats, it looked like you could have just run over the whole car from that angle on the camera. take a look, and you can see the comparisons and the horsepower and the top speed. And as we come back with our two cohorts in crime, Rusty Wallace and Scott Goodyear, I want to ask you, which one's tougher to drive here, guys? The Cup car or the Indy car? Who wants to go first?
Well, I think I'll go first on that one. I'm going to have to say the Indy car. You know, you're going down for the start here 3 wide. There's no other track in the world that you could rush into turn 1 with 32 of your finest friends trying to get to the same place at the same time at over 200 miles an hour and 3 wide. It's a very tough thing to do. And 230 miles an hour going into turn 1, trying to not lift your foot off the throttle. You're threading the needle to try and get your speed through there and carry it all the way through 1 lap. Very hard to drive these cars because they're going as fast as an airplane.
Well, it's pretty hard to drive a stock car, too. When you're at a place like Dover, Delaware, or Bristol, Tennessee, where the G-forces are trying to rip your neck off, and you're out there for 3.5 hours or 500 miles, Marty and Scott, it's pretty tough. So I think that stock car I've been driving, Scott, is a pretty tough thing to drive, too.
All right, now let me jump in here, because where's it tougher to win? Here at Indianapolis or the Daytona 500? I'll let you go first, Rusty.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, whether it's Daytona or Indianapolis are 2 great racetracks, and they're both super hard to win on. I've tried to win Daytona many times and got a lot of top 5 finishes. That's the closest I could get. But this track here at Indianapolis has so much history, and it's such a tough race to win for many people like Michael Andretti and others. So I'm not going to fight you on that one, Scott. They're both great ones.
Well, I'll agree with you on that. You know, it's been tough because I've tried to win this race many times too, and I think if you can win a big race like the Indianapolis 500 or Daytona, obviously that's a special place for the trophy on the mantle for sure. I would have to say though, you know, 500 miles around here with no banking might just be a little bit tougher than riding those high banks at Daytona.
Oh, he slid one in on you there, Rusty. All right, I'll give you another chance here. Let's go in on this one. You mentioned 3 wide coming here. Which is more difficult, 3 wide into turn 1 at Indy, or plate racing where you got 43 running down like a one massive parking lot jam?
It's definitely tougher 3 wide going to turn 1 in Indy. At Daytona and Talladega, it's expected to run 2 and 3 wide all the time, the whole entire race. But Indy, if you try to go through the 3 wide, the outside guy is definitely going to get in the wall, or this guy in the center is going to spin out also. This is a very tough racetrack to drive here at Indy. Everybody likes to run the bottom. There's not much groove out there in the top side of this racetrack in a stock car.
I would have to agree, you know, because this racetrack, because of the narrowness, because it has no banking, as we mentioned, I think it's very tough. But if you're winning Daytona or Indy, I'd take either one.
Just to let you know, there's 9 degrees of banking in the corners. It just still doesn't feel like much when you're flying
minimal
through
at 230.
We've got to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll look at the first decade of the 90-year history of this great race. Don't go anywhere. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that is the storied pylon, and you can see the historic landmark that it is. It was designated in 1987. This place is full of history, and on the infield portion of the track is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Hall of Fame Museum, and that's where we find Vince Welch with our first look at the first decade of this great race. Vince?
Well, Marty, so much has changed since the races of the 1910s, most notably the cars themselves. This is Ray Haroon's machine that he drove to victory in 1911, but these were the cars, the drivers, and the races that set the foundation for the event that we know today. Let's go back to the Brickyard circa 1910. In the early 1910s, Indiana's farmland would give birth to the greatest spectacle in racing. With the first Indianapolis 500 in 1911, 7 drivers of different nationalities would become winners during the first decade of Indianapolis. America claimed the first win thanks to Ray Haroon and his Indiana-built Marmon Wasp. In the final race of his career, 26 cars were running when he finished first, a number yet to be exceeded or matched. While favored Ralph De Palma pushed his car to the finish, Indiana's Joe Dawson only needed to lead 2 laps to win in 1912. The next 4 years were dominated by men from across the Atlantic. Frenchman Jules Gou toasted victory in 1913. Countryman Rene Thomas did the same in 1914. Italian Ralph De Palma finally reached victory lane in 1915, while Dario Resta gave Italy its second win in 1916. America joined a world at war in 1917. While the Speedway became silent, one of its heroes didn't. Eddie Rickenbacker, who would later own the Speedway, scored 26 victories in the skies over Europe. on his way to becoming America's top flying ace of World War I. When racing resumed in 1919, speeds topped 100 miles an hour for the first time. It was Hoosier Howdy Wilcox who won the race, sparking a new tradition, the singing of Back Home Again in Indiana. And how about the 1911 race, guys? Lasted nearly 7 hours. Joe Dawson in 1912 winning despite leading just 2 laps. And in 1919, the pole speed was over 100 miles per hour. And of course, it all began when Ray Haroon won the first race in this car. And Jack Arute, it featured what's believed to be the very first rear view mirror ever used in an automobile.
Absolutely, Vince. And as we looked through those great video clips from the 1910s to 1919, you'll notice that outside of Ray Haroon, all of the winners of the Indy 500 had a riding mechanic with them. Not to take care of any mechanical functions, but to let the driver know when he was about to be overtaken. So why did Ray Haroon invent that rear view mirror? Well, you see, Ray Haroon was an engineer for the Marmon Company. And you know how engineers are, guys. They always try to find a decided advantage. Ray figured out that if he could dispense with that 150 to 175 pound riding mechanic, he could add more fuel, make less pit stops, and get to victory lane quicker. Fellas, no riding mechanic, a rear view mirror that we use today, and a trip to victory lane for Ray Haroon.
Well, thanks, Jack. You know, the thing I want to talk about, guys, we haven't pointed it out. You got to remember back then, this entire 2.5 miles was bricks, and you saw it was just leaf springs. I want to know your thoughts on driving close to 7 hours with the car doing nothing but this.
It had to have been so rough. You look back in those days, and those guys were really heroes, I think, simply from the fact that they were out there without the safety gear that we have today, without even seatbelts. Remember, when they would crash, a lot of times you'd see the drivers ejected and also their riding cohorts. I mean, I look at that and think those guys are probably just a little bit crazy.
If they only knew back then, Marty, how important weight was, how much faster their car could have went if they had had one driver carrying an extra 180 pounds. I was down in the garage area yesterday, and these guys complained about maybe extra 5 pounds being too heavy. But 180 to 189, crazy, man. It's unreal.
Well, if you're just tuning in, it's near the top of the hour. We hope you understand why we're gabbing away here, because the weather is not cooperating. For the 26th time since 1969, pole day has been affected by the rain. But we are hoping to get pole day qualifying here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway a little bit later. It's down to a spit, and if we can get the track dry and get the temperature up a little bit, we still hope to be able to put somebody on pole here this Saturday. Now let's continue our look through the 1910 decades. Let's bring in Jerry Punch.
Thank you, Marty. Without a doubt, the staying story of the 1912 Indianapolis 500 was the courage and determination of an Italian-born immigrant by the name of Ralph De Palma. De Palma led 196 laps that day in his German-engineered Mercedes Grand Prix car, only to have the car break down 1 1/4 laps from the checkered flag with a 5-lap bulge over the field. Now, De Palma gets out of his car, and right up there, he and his mechanic began pushing and pushing and pushing the car, but it was very heavy. And it didn't have enough time because Joe Dawson made up the time and won the Indy 500. And an incredible show of sportsmanship. Who was the first one to greet Joe Dawson in victory lane? Ralph De Palma. Joe Dawson may have won the race that day, but Ralph De Palma captured the hearts of race fans everywhere with his show of sportsmanship and effort trying to push his car to victory, although it wasn't to be. Jamie?
Well, Jerry, that race was conducted on 3.2 million bricks across this 2.5-mile oval. Now, this track was built in 1909, all original bricks, but you can imagine over time, as it's been resurfaced, the bricks have been covered up. Yes, a lot of these bricks are still here underneath the asphalt. Now, the only place the bricks are exposed are here at the start-finish line, 558 of them. Now, look at this. An original brick. Right here you can see 1901. Some of these babies are stored in a private top secret place outside of the track, and most recently, as you can see, the yard of bricks was extended through the pavilion for the fans to enjoy. Great history going on down here, Marty.
Jamie, if that brick ends up on eBay, we're going to be coming after you because we'll know where to find you. Stay with us. We've talked a little bit about the guys who ran in the 1910s. When we come back, we'll talk more about the guys and gal who are going to run in the 90th running of the Indianapolis 500. Don't go away. Still in a holding pattern here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on pole day, but gives us a chance to find out the answer to our Text Your Indy IQ on our how many active drivers have won the Indy 500 from the pole. Now, I think one of you at least may know this answer. Want to take a stab at this here, guys?
I'm going to shoot for B. I'm going to say 2.
2?
Rusty?
Well, I'm going to say 2 also because Scott's smarter at this than I am. So I'm going to go with it.
I better be right.
All right, let's find out. The answer is you're both correct. It was 2, as it would be the answers. Dan Weldon, and you want to throw in the second one?
Unser Jr.
Unser Jr., a man who's back racing here this year. And there they are, 1994 and 234. And I should say Buddy Rice and Unser Jr. I think I said Dan Weldon. Yeah, I think, yeah, I did. And you know why? Because we're going to be talking to Dan Weldon in just a moment, so hang with us there, folks. Let's take you around the track one more time, just in case you're tuning in. This was back on the first day that the track was open, and there is a moment that the photographers love when you can get the whole Andretti clan out on the track at the same time. Grandpa, there is son, and then over to the far inside, grandson. Maybe the one and only time it'll happen. Sam Hornish has been the fastest pretty much every time that we've been able to run on the track. He has the overall fastest practice lap. You saw it there, over 226 miles an hour. For Buddy Rice, it has been a rough week again. 1 year ago to the day from when he had his injury crash in turn 2, he hit the wall again. This time, though, he has only bruises. If you were with us a little earlier, you know he is going to be okay. Here we go again, guys. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but again, we may have some people just tuning in. It seems like Target Ganassi and Team Penske.
Both powered by Honda this year, which is the advantage. Remember, they had Toyota powered last year. They were behind in the speeds, but what a difference a year makes, because those are the guys to beat right now. Everybody else seems like they're chasing them, including the Andretti Green Team.
I tell you, these guys are awful close to Marty. They're only 2 or 3 miles an hour apart from the top all the way down. Kosuke Masura is awful fast. You know, Andretti Green is awful quick. Right now, we're looking at Team Penske and Ganassi because they're at the top of the charts. But, hey, this thing is far from over. If these guys had more practice, those numbers would change.
And we should point out, as you look at the speeds, you want to equate this into time. You're talking about how close these guys are. The top 21 speeds are all within 1 second of each other on the racetrack. All right, let's talk now with one of the guys who's had a moment out here on the track so far this year, Jeff Simmons. He is with, I think it's Jack, isn't he? Jerry, I'm sorry.
Well, thanks, Marty. You know, every driver dreams of getting that phone call and know you're going to be offered a top-notch ride with a great race car. When Ray Hall Letterman called Jeff Simmons, it was out of tragic circumstances, the loss of sensational rookie driver Paul Dana. And, Jeff, the first thing you did when you called, when you got the call to get in the car, is you contacted Tanya Dana and Greg and the Dana family to talk with them. What do they have to say?
Well, it wasn't quite the first thing that I did. You know, I mean, there was some time between being contacted by Bobby Ray Hall and Ray Hall Letterman Racing till, you know, I was actually kind of officially the driver. And then, you know, it was a very emotional time for me, and obviously it was, you know, even more emotional for Paul's family. And I sent a letter to Tanya, and she was kind enough to take the time to write back, which meant a lot to me, and really kind of started to put my mind at ease a little bit about the whole situation and how the ride came about. And just the other day, Greg Dana came up to me and you know, said that they were behind me, and they know that you know, it's a race car driver's job to go out there and try to win races, and you know, Paul would want me to do that, and so that's really made everything a lot easier on my mind the last few days.
When you took the job, you said in the press conference you wanted to vow to honor Paul's memory by being competitive in this ethanol car, and you came here on Tuesday, first day out of the box, and you were very quick on the racetrack, but then you had a bit of an incident on the track in practice on Wednesday. What happened?
Yeah, we were pretty good right out of the box on Tuesday, and the car was fairly quick, and you know, we just on Wednesday, I guess it was just a small error. You know, we were really trying to get the car running free through the corners, trying to look for some more speed, and it just ended up you know, losing a little grip coming out of turn 1 for whatever reason. Everything was fine up to that point, and it kind of came as a bit of a surprise when it snapped around. And you know, it was fortunately we got away with very light contact. If we hadn't lost that left rear tire there, I don't think we would have hit the wall at all, and we could have got away with it completely. But you know, we're just looking to get some more track time. The weather isn't helping us out right now.
This whole team, Rahal Letterman, hunting for speed. I know Danica, the quickest of the three, and it's been a grip issue, I'm told, with the Panos chassis. What were you hoping to be able to do today for pole qualifying?
Well, we had a lot of things we wanted to try. Some things that we had been thinking about, from the very first day, and we just didn't, haven't had the time to do it with the track time. And after Buddy had his crash, it looked like there was a part that may have failed on him. So we pulled Danica's and my car in as well to take a look at that part. So that that cost some time as well. But obviously that's the right decision to make when you think a part has failed. You need to take the time to check everything out and be safe. But we have a lot of changes that we want to make, that we've kind of had on the books from day one and just haven't been able to get there yet because of the weather.
Well, we know it was difficult for you to jump in this car. I've known you a long time, and I know that Paul Dana would be very proud of, because you're trying to wave the flag on the ethanol mission and tell everyone that's what's coming. 10% ethanol this year and 100% next year. Jeff Simmons, thanks for taking a few moments to join us.
All right, I appreciate it, and absolutely, that's certainly part of the message we're trying to get out there. Not only that ethanol is coming, but that it's, a lot of people don't know that they've actually been running it in their cars for quite some time, and it's the same sort of blend that we run here, the 10% ethanol, so they should ask for it at their local station.
The last thing Paul Dana said to me that morning was, remember ethanol, it's clean, it's renewable, and most importantly, guys, it's made in America.
And he was the one who put that whole program together, brought 3 groups into that program. And as you take a look at Jeff, we head towards commercial break. He's got a lap his best at 222.2 miles an hour. And don't watch the Scott Goodyear. That's Al Unser Jr. We'll talk about his return when we come back. Back here at Indianapolis, we're still trying to get this track dried out. Mother Nature not cooperating here as we're trying to go for the pole at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the 90th running of the greatest spectacle in racing. The Unser family, well, they have a storied history at this track, and they have had some great success here. Take a look at the numbers between them. They have won this race, look at that, a total of 9 times. And look at Al, never finished 30 or worse ever in his career. And how about Al Jr.? Well, probably one of his best moments, 1992.
And Scott Goodyear is now right there, right behind Little Al. He follows Little Al down the main straightaway. Anywhere Little Al goes, there is Scott as well.
And further, when you weave back and forth like that, you scrub off a little bit of speed too, but Scott has nothing he can do except to follow him because he needs the drafting.
Scott Goodyear, of course, a Canadian early in his career. You see him setting up Little Al now. He seemed to kind of give you the feeling that things were coming easily for him. Then he had a long period there, 2-3 years, where just couldn't get any result at all. Suddenly he's vaulted back to this moment. He can see the possibility of winning the Indy 500 if he can make one pass. But he has got to pass one of the savviest, canniest, and most determined drivers in the business.
A lot of that's going to come from the old sprint car days. That's where Little Al came from, was go-karts and sprint cars. He's got a lot of savvy on how to keep somebody from passing.
The 198th lap in the record books. On this lap in 1989, Emerson Fittipaldi and Little Al touched wheels. Little Al hit the wall. Fittipaldi went onto the west. Scott Goodyear still trying to catch him.
Right now, there's no traffic involved in front of him, Paul. This is what got him the last time.
And Al Unser Jr. sees Dwayne Sweeney's white flag. 2.5 miles. One more lap to go. If Scott Goodyear has a chance, the time is now. Don't forget, 10 years ago, John Cox and Rick Mears raced on the last lap for the finish. John Cox won that one. That was experience over Rick Mears' relative inexperience. Will that happen again here today? They're on the backstretch. 223 miles an hour on the last lap.
No traffic involved.
They make the turn for home now. On the main stretch, Scott Goodyear closes in. He looks for a place to come by. Scott Goodyear tries it, but no.
I believe that's the closest finish in Indy history. Closer than the race 10 years ago when John Cox beat Rick Mears.
10 years ago when Little Al was new to this track. And now, Al Unser Jr. is a winner
Well, Al Jr., I don't know about you, but I watched that and I still get goosebumps. But I have to ask you, you don't feel bad yet for doing that to me?
Hey, it turns out the same every time for me. I'm happy about it.
You're absolutely right on that. But, you know, I'll tell you a quick story. That beautiful poster that they gave us, I took that at home for the first week after I got it, and I turned it upside down because my car would lead your car across the line.
Well, we were just very fortunate that day, and, you know, you kept us honest, so that's it.
Well, congratulations again. Jack Arute, you got with a very special guy down there.
Indeed he is, Scott, and that was a special year for both you and I as well, because one of the moments that has been replayed year in and year out is the Victory Lane interview when you were taken to tears and saying, Jack, you don't know what Indy means to me. Help us understand what Indy means to people like you.
Well, really, it just, you know, it's just one of those things that with the legacy here and the family, you know, the success Uncle Bobby's had, and then my dad, and just all the years, just, you know, as a kid dreaming about it and all that kind of stuff, and then, you know, coming here for 10 years. That was my 10th year that I had been here, and you know, I didn't think I was ever going to win it. I had several cars and opportunities to win, and they would just slip away, and something would come in from out of the blue that wasn't our issue, you know, and so it just, you don't know what it means.
Now you walked away, you retired, you got your AARP card, and now all of a sudden you're back. What's it like?
It's great. It's great. What can I say? I mean, it was, it's awesome. I mean, to come here, I was telling my wife Gina this morning, you know, my rookie year here in '83, all of first weekend got rained out. And so this is just, you know, replaying itself, and I'm just extremely excited about this whole thing. So.
Well, we're extremely excited to have one of the Indy 500 champions back. Oh, my God. Fellas, you're going to have to excuse me for a minute. His dad, Unser Sr., has showed up, and as people know, we bet who would get married first, and I owe him now $20 every time he sees me.
Yeah, yesterday.
Oh, and I didn't give it to him yesterday. I got a 20 in here somewhere. You know, if I'd known you were going to live this long, Senior, I would have never made this bet. Let me ask you a question, though. Seriously, as a four-time winner, and we were talking to your son as far as what Indy means, you're very welcome. The Unser Retirement Fund continues. As a four-time winner of this race, you're you know, with the Unser Museum and everything that's going on in Albuquerque, New Mexico, can you describe to people what it means when you win, not once, not twice, not three times, but four times in this greatest spectacle?
Well, you know, it's really great to be able to win, you know, and whether it's your first time or fourth time, it's something that you always are very happy of trying to put together. And that's what he's here for, is to try to do the third one. And he's got a hard job to go.
How about you? I mean, you're now a coach for a lot of these drivers that are the rookies in the Indy Racing League and the Indy Car Series. Do you see another Al Unser on the horizon out there in that crop?
Well, I hope so. Al's boy, he's trying to come along, and, you know, I'm thinking about coming back, too, because I get in the car every day and drive it down the street.
You know what? I just wanted to advise you that maybe you should go back to Albuquerque for the rest of the month, because I'm going broke paying you.
No, we're just starting with you, boy.
Hey, let's check in with Jamie Little. She's with another four-time winner. I got to go write a check, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, Jackie's going broke. That's right. I'm with AJ Foyt in the garage now, and he just had to pull out this old picture and say, I want you to remember when I was skinny and I had black hair. We were talking about the 60s, AJ, but actually let's talk about 1992. We were just talking to Al Unser about his win. That was your last Indianapolis 500. What do you remember about that day?
It was kind of a sad day, you know. I just knew, I felt like this is where I made my name. This is where I really wanted to retire, and just one of them deals.
But you really didn't announce the retirement till pole day the following year.
Well, that's quite true. That morning we were running very fast and really quicker than anybody at the time, and I said, now's the time to walk away.
And you still hold the record for most consecutive races, 35.
That makes me sound old.
But you're still here. You're going to have 2 cars in the 500. What do you guys do on a day like this when the rain's coming down and pole day is happening?
Well, I think the worst place you can be on a rainy day is at a racetrack because everybody's wanting to get out and run. And, you know, like we haven't run hardly at all, maybe a total of maybe 15 laps. And a lot of people's trimmed their cars out. And, you know, Giaffone, we hadn't even had time to do nothing. I had to go back to Houston. So he's really under adverse conditions. So I guess best thing we do if they do open up, just try to do the best we can because race day, you know, it would be a lot different because everything will back up.
Well, AJ, if you get a car in the field, which I'm sure you will, you have 2 chances. It'll be your 49th consecutive year with a car in the field. Congratulations.
Thank you. You shouldn't be saying that. It makes me sound old.
Hey, but we love seeing you, love talking to you. AJ Foyt, we'll be hearing more from him coming up, I'm sure, later on in the ABC show. Guys?
Oh, we absolutely will. And tell him it's not old, it's just experience. And it counts, and he has got a ton of it. He is one of the true legends of the Speedway.
Now stay tuned for the greatest spectacle in racing.
There's no race in the world that compares with the Indy 500. To be fortunate enough to win, there's just no greater thrill.
The main thing to me is it puts you on a pedestal.
Indianapolis has something no other track I know of has, and that's tradition.
Ladies and gentlemen,
start your engines.
A lot of stories with Indianapolis 500, and I'm very proud to be one of the stories.
When you win a championship or you win Indianapolis, you just have to pinch yourself.
People see me at Indy throw fits. People see me have a lot of fun. That's what made AJ Foyt.
Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it is pole day, although the rain is keeping us from getting out onto the racetrack as it did yesterday. It has been since Thursday when we have been on the racing surface. 2.5 miles around this storied place, and look at the interior. How big is this racetrack? Well, look what our gang came up with. You could fit inside this oval, Yankee Stadium, seating of 57,000. How about Bristol Motor Speedway? That'll be good to you there, Rusty. Madison Square Garden, the Rose Bowl, if we could transfer the Roman Coliseum, and Churchill Downs. Does that give you an idea of just how big this place is? And now, as we take a look at more of this storied history and the current day progress that's being made by all these racers, it's time for Assignment Indy with Jamie Little.
This is one gigantic facility. You can see behind us some fans getting the tour, waving at us. We talked to Kurt Cavan from the Indianapolis Star, and he actually did a story on this speedway 2 years ago and hand counted every single seat, and the exact number, 257,325 seats. Now, that's not counting all the people with credentials, all the yellow shirts around here. So usually there's about 300,000 people, give or take a few on race day. But right behind us, that is the original section. Stand A, built in 1909. That was the original, and then everything else came after. Of course, it's been rebuilt a few times. Guys, back in the day, it was all wood. Now it's steel, and of course, you can see it's been added on to. So 257,000 seats, pretty enormous. Marty?
Just let me know. Are we going to break? What are we doing? Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, those are the jet dryers. That's the good news. We've got plenty of them. The bad news is we don't have them out on the track yet. We're hoping to get qualifying here for the pole. Let's talk to the man who runs this place, president of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Joie Chitwood. He's with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Thank you very much, Marty and Joey. We saw that you got all your equipment ready to go to try to get this track dry today. Now, just to presuppose, for some reason, if we were unable to get the track dry and the rain's moved back in, it's let up quite a bit now, and the sun's even peeked through at certain places. But if it was to move back in, what kind of schedule would we have here at the track tomorrow?
Well, Jerry, unfortunately, we have some experience with this. This is what occurred last year. We would move qualifications for the pole position until tomorrow. We'd also qualify 1 through 22. So we take 11 from today, the 11 from tomorrow, 1 through 22 tomorrow. We'd have practice in the morning, 9:30 to 10, 10 to 10:30. Those time periods, we'd go from noon to 6 for qualifications if we can't get anything done today.
And we should say you've met with Brian Barnhart, the president of the Indy Racing League. You guys have sat and discussed this, so you have a plan if for some reason we were not to get qualifying in today. And obviously you're poised to try to get everything done and you can to try, because there are a lot of fans that have still come out to watch pole qualifying here today at Indy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, this is pole day, so we want to try and give fans every opportunity to see what we can. We always want to see race cars on the track. We do have other things occurring today, whether it's some concerts in the infield, museum tours, you name it. But at the end of the day, we'd love to get the track dry and get some cars out there.
And if we don't get it in today, tomorrow, the good news is the fans can come and watch 22 spots be filled tomorrow in qualifying in day 2. Hey, Joey, thanks for coming by. I know you've got a lot of meetings and a lot of things going on here trying to get this track dry so we can get pole underway here for the running of the Indianapolis 100.
Thanks, Doc. There are some of the guys out on the track, and oh no, the rain has kicked back in, and you can see the puddle there, so we're going to have to hold off. You know, Joey mentioned the fact they have some experience with this. Just since 1969, 26 pole days have been affected in one way or another. And notice the total washout 6 times, with that being 3 of the 4 last year. So I guess we've been cursed a little bit. Let's check in one more time with Jamie Little.
Yes, and Felipe Giaffone is with me of AJ Foyt Racing, the ABC car number 14, and he wants to get out there. But Felipe, first, before we talk about what's happening with you guys right now, let's go back to last year. The drama on bump day, if you all captured that, AJ called you up at 1 in the afternoon and said, come here, we're going to try to get in the field. And what happened?
Well, that was pretty much it. I mean, I was actually ready to go back to Brazil. I thought all my chances are gone, and then I wasn't ready at all. And he called me in and said, you want to try to get a shot? And it's still like all the way to the time that I actually got in the car and went out, I thought that was just like a big joke, you know, and it was for real.
And you did such a nice job actually qualifying that he called you up to race for him full-time this year. How's it going for you?
Well, I think I mean, I had really one shot, I think, last year, and I think everything worked out. He gave me a good car. It was a tough race, but we survived, and he called me for this season, you know, so I'm really happy. I think we're improving, we're making improvements every race that we go to, and it should be a good season for us, I guess.
All right, Felipe Giaffone, the number 14 car, going for qualifying in his 6th Indianapolis 500. Jack?
Jamie, this guy here, Eddie Cheever Jr., is the master of self-deprecation. As I poked my head inside Gasoline Alley's garage for the number 51, he says, boy, Jack, you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel if you need to interview me. You're a former Indy 500 champion. You've come out of, oh no, you never did retire, did you, Egypt?
I was talking about you, not about me. Why, how'd you flip that around?
You never officially retired.
No,
Why are you back, though, Eddie?
A variety of circumstances, but probably the most important was the fact that everybody had the same engine. For 3 years, we were on the wrong side of the railroad track when it came to engines, and you came to a race knowing that it was very difficult to participate for a win. I'm not saying it is easy now, except you've taken away one of the biggest problems with one team having a lot more horsepower than another. So, and this is the 90th running of the Indy 500. So I can't wake up 15 years from now and say, let's go do Indy again. So it was just, we have a great team. Everybody has worked very hard over the last 3 or 4 years, and it's just an opportunity that I couldn't say no to. And I see with glee that I'm not the only old, quote, driver.
We call them graybeards.
Okay. Well, I like old better than that. There's another Andretti here. Al Jr. is here. Buddy Lazier is here. So it's probably the deepest field that you've seen at the Indy 500 for a long time.
Eddie, a number of years ago, you said to me, to clarify Indianapolis, that it's a living, breathing organism.
Was that after dinner or before dinner? I said something like that. Yeah, it is. It is. Look at today. I mean, the track will change again tomorrow because of all this water. It changes 10 degrees. The whole way the car handle changes, and all this public. At the start of the race, and you see 500,000 people standing up for the national anthem, there are few things that can touch an American as much as this can. And it's been around here for a long time, so I love this place, and I know that it will rip a chunk out of you if you're not careful also. So there's a lot of respect from my side also to the Speedway.
There are many great racetracks across the world, but when it comes to the greatest spectacle in racing, and indeed the greatest racetrack in the world, it's right here at the corner of 16th and Georgetown Road, Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it is pole day, and we can honestly tell you the skies are getting brighter, and the raindrops appear to have been subsided. We're hoping to get more action in. You'll see more coming up from 3 to 6 Eastern Time over on ABC in our Indianapolis 500 Pole Day telecast presented by Capital One. Look at that, the clouds are starting to break. Maybe at 3 o'clock we will be able to find out who wins the pole here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Quick closing comments before we break away for an hour?
I think it's going to dry up. I'm looking forward to qualifying today, Marty. I think we can get this done.
Always an optimist, you know it may do, but I'll tell you one thing for sure, though. A lot of pressure on drivers to get in these cars and go fast if qualifying is going to be this afternoon.
Well, if you have been with us for the 2 hours, we thank you for that. We hope it was time well invested. Join us again in 1 hour over at ABC, because we will have a lot more of this in-depth look at the 90-year history of this great event. Right there is the Hall of Fame Museum right on the infield portion of the grounds. And look at these fans. We got to give them a salute. They've been sitting here since the gates opened at 7 a.m. this morning. And they are true diehards. They want to see race cars on the track, and so do we. And we'll be back in 1 hour here over on ABC with 3 hours of coverage. And you'll see it all as it unfolds at the Indianapolis 500. That's going to do it for us right now. We will step aside. Young Marco Andretti, age 19. We never forget Paul Dana. As you see action going on as fans get their autographs, and there's Helio with that never-ending smile. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Coming up next, it's the LPGA Michelob Ultra Open. We'll see you in 1 hour over on ABC with Indianapolis 500 Pole Day.